friends. Welcome to Sky House Herbs podcast. I'm Ashley Ellenvoss, a clinical herbalist, and in this space, I share my knowledge and experience with plant medicine to help you on your own journey of healing and transformation. Join me in exploring the ancient wisdom of plant spirit medicine and how it can be used to heal the body, mind, and spirit. We'll talk to experts in the field and share stories from people who've been transformed by powerful plant allies. New episodes are released each Monday, so please subscribe. And now, let's explore this mystical world of plant medicine together. Hey everyone, welcome in. Today I am starting a new series for you from Spirit to Soil, and I will be sharing some ways that I participate in my gardening process. And even if you don't have a garden, you will benefit from listening to this series because I am going to talk with you about how to tend the land. And even if you only grow things in pots, you'll learn about medicinal qualities of different herbs and ways to really engage in the caretaking practices of working with plants. So if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please take a moment to click the subscribe button, click the notifications button. That way you know when my new videos are launched. And if you want to learn more about local events where I'm teaching in the Minneapolis area, go to skyhouseherbs.com, click on events, and you can see all of the places I'm teaching over the summer and into the fall. And I'll include a link to that at the bottom in the description. Today's topic, what we'll be looking at, is 7 top herbs mid-spring planting guide, because here in Minnesota, it is mid-May. Like if you haven't already gotten out into your garden yet this year, you're a little bit behind. That's okay. It's no big deal. Some of you, I'm guessing, have already been outside in your garden. You've already started to plant your beds or plant your pots. So I wanted to just encourage you to get out there and keep working on it. Keep doing it. Don't give up. If you haven't started, don't give up, because there is something so powerful about engaging with the plants, hands-on, with the living, breathing, gas, oxygen, carbon exchanging beings that are on this planet with us. And there's no better way to connect with plant medicine than to literally help them grow and to steward them and steward your land. So here are the 3 things that we'll cover in today's talk. We'll talk about number 1, connecting with the land that you're on. 2, setting the stage for your growing season and for your growing space with intention. And then 3, I will share the 7 herbs that I think you should be planting right now and some of their medicinal actions and any growing tips that you might find beneficial. So let's start with connecting to the land. And this is, I think, probably one of the most important pieces that I want to emphasize is if you're living somewhere, you need to really live there. And I say this from someone who lived a little bit more of a nomadic life, especially in my 20s. I pretty much have had a garden that I have tended since I was about 18. And everywhere I've lived, whether it's been apartments or townhouses or farmhouses out in the country, I've always had a garden. And that's just me. And I know that not everyone has had that experience or even likes to garden. But no matter where it is that you are living, in order to, I think, have a really rich experience, caretaking herbs is you have to connect with the land around you. And that means you have to spend time outside. And I'm just thinking about when I lived in Tacoma Park, Maryland. I lived in the top story apartment of, it was like an old Victorian house, like they have a lot in Tacoma Park. And I lived on the top floor, which was like an attic, basically converted into an apartment. I had a deck where I grew a bunch of plants. And then around the house was just land. And it was tended in a very common way that you might imagine in a suburban neighborhood. There were hostas and bushes. There was a backyard with grass. And while I lived there, I spent as much time as I could outside on my back deck, looking over the land, connecting with it. And then eventually I started planting out the back of it with the permission of the landlord. And he allowed me to start planting both ornamental and medicinal herbs back there. for my own use and just for the pleasure of the other tenants who lived in the building. But I don't think I would have had the courage to do that, nor would I have known where to start in terms of where to plant certain things and what to plant if I hadn't first taken the time to get to know what lived there. So you can do the same thing, regardless of where you live. Spend time outside on the land. And here's what I want you to look for. I want you to look for the animals that live on your property or on your land. Are there deers moving through? What does that do to the soil? Here where I live in Minnesota, we have wild turkeys everywhere. So I'm very familiar with the turkey routes, where they like to go and meander through the yard to get to the woods. Do you have different types of birds? Do you have songbirds? Do you have hunting birds, birds of prey? Where do they like to fly? What trees do the crows like to land on? All of this will give you information about your land, who lives there. And to me, when I think about what do I want to grow, I also think about what is going to attract and be good medicine for all of the animals and the birds and the insects that live on my property. So, for example, the bees and the pollinators, the butterflies, I think about I've seen them on this property. So what would they like? How can I keep them coming back? How can I make this space a sanctuary where they can come? And for the deer, I don't love the deer coming to eat my borage and eating my wild lettuce. But you know what I do is I keep some of it for them. So I'll spray a little bit of it with this. It's a natural deer and rabbit repellent spray. It basically smells like manure. It's really stinky, but it keeps them, it's just a deterrent. They smell that and then they don't want to eat it. So I'll spray about half of my plants. And then the other ones, I just say, you know what, deer, this is your land too. So if you really are hungry and nothing else looks good except for these really fuzzy, hard borage leaves, then hey, there's a few that you can eat that don't taste like manure. So I think that's really important, is paying attention to who's there. Where are they traveling? If you have birds and you want to attract more birds, set up bird feeders, set up bird houses. That's just a simple way that you can just start to be engaged in that reciprocal action of becoming part of the community where you live, with all of the beings that live where you live. The other thing that you can do is look out for native medicinal plants that are already growing on your property. You might notice that there are more medicinal plants growing on your property than you realized. There are things like, I know where I've lived in Maryland, in North Carolina, and here in Minnesota, there is a lot of plantain, which is a wonderful first aid remedy for cuts and bites and stings. And I use it all the time, and it pops up in my garden beds. It pops up on the pathways. So that is a native medicinal. Well, it's not it's native to Europe, but it's now become naturalized. So plantain, Plantago major, and Plantago lanceolata both grow here. Those are medicines. I also have goldenrod that grows along the periphery of the yard where the yard meets the woods. And that is a really nice medicinal plant that I don't have to plant now. And if I had planted it, if I had gone ahead and just said, okay, what are all the things I want? And I had planted those before looking at the land, I would have overplanted those items. And so now I kind of have a sense of what's already here. What can I already support that is growing very naturally and very abundantly on this property? So look out for that. Take a little notebook and go outside. There's a great app that you can download onto your phone. I do recommend buying it. I think the free version, I don't think gives you all of the bells and whistles, but it's called Picture This. This is what it looks like. It's not really coming into focus, but it's called Picture This. And I'll include a link down below. It's a wonderful app for identifying weeds, plants. Sometimes when I'm out in my garden and I see something, I'm like, I don't know what this is because it's very young or small, or it's just something I've never seen. I'll snap a picture with the app and I'll figure it out. I'll be like, oh, is this a weed that is going to take over my bed? Or did I just get a volunteer native medicine that's now here in the bed? I'm going to let it grow. How neat. And I've had a few volunteer plants pop in over the years, and it's always nice just to see who arrives. So that is another tip. And then I would also recommend that as you are setting up your land and taking stock of where it is you are, to set up things that are meaningful to you, to create a feeling of home on the property. For example, what I've done is I put little statues out on my land and chimes, and then little windmobiles that I've made over the years with sticks and feathers and cloth. And those are other really nice ways to add a little adornment to the trees and to the land. And I think it just creates a very nice environment for you to be in. And also, I think it can welcome in other creatures, and they kind of get a sense of like, oh, this is the land with the music, or this is the land with the bird feeders. And that is a nice way to also set things up. You can do the same thing on a patio. You can do the exact same thing in a small communal space. So that is number one. Number two is setting the stage. So what do we need to do to create the right feel for the garden that we are going to plant with these 7 herbs? Well, the first thing you need to do is figure out, what are your goals and visions for the land? Do you want it to be a wild jungle of medicinal herbs and trees? And so it's just going to be kind of a haphazard wilderness experience. Or do you have more Virgo in your chart and you really want organized beds? Maybe you want to color code them. One of my friends at For Elements Herbals in Wisconsin, Jane, she organizes her beds by chakras. So she has a root chakra bed with all of the herbs that are red flowering or have to do with the root chakra. So you can get really creative with how you organize your growing spaces, whether that's raised beds by color, or maybe you have a whole bed that's just, all of your cooking herbs. And that's what I like to do is I have my rosemary, garlic, oregano, thyme, lavender, all of the herbs I use for cooking or that are very aromatic. They tend to like to grow together anyways. So I put those all in one bed. So think about, what is your vision? How do you want to organize your garden? Do you want to grow medicines only? Do you have enough space for one thing and you really want to just grow medicines? Do you want to grow food? And do you want to grow flowers? Just for the joy of cutting flowers you can bring in all season long to place in vases in your bedroom, your bathroom, your kitchen, to give away to friends, to start your own flower stand. That's something that I'm going to be doing this year. Is I'm creating a community free flower and herb pickup with a local friend of mine. So we're going to have a little cart out front, I think on Tuesdays, with jars of flowers and herbs that you can just take. And then I just ask that you return the empty jar or drop off any extra jars you have so that I can continue to fill and give them away. And that's just one way I want to create community and a feeling of local economy and local reciprocity using herbs and flowers. And I have an abundance, so I have plenty to give. And I recently read Robin Wall Kimmer's new book, Serviceberry. I strongly recommend it. I'll include a link. I'm going to write down a note so that I remember to have that link. And in the book, she talks about the local gift economy, where when people have a lot of one thing, they can give it back to their community. And then it creates a feeling of generosity within a community. So that's one thing I know I can do is I've got land and herbs and flowers, and I can give those away and bring joy. And that might spark reciprocity among my neighbors. Maybe they have a lot of sourdough bread, which I love. And I did that, but I'm not doing that now. Or kombucha. And maybe they leave me a little note. And maybe I'll have like a little comments basket being like, do you have something you want to contribute? Maybe we'll just set up a bunch of tables in my front yard on Tuesdays and let people just share and spread their loves and passions. That's a good idea. I just thought of that. So thank you for giving me a space to have created that idea. So I'll do that. I'm going to do a comments basket. See who else wants to donate. You can borrow that idea. You can do that in your community as well. So that's something that I wanted to share because I want to spark this idea of the local gift economy. And setting the stage. One other important thing when you're setting the stage for your own community garden, or your own herbal garden is soil, soil, soil. You have to have good soil to grow healthy and strong herbs and vegetables and medicines. And how do you do this? Here's what I do, and I'm sure there are other people out there that have better ways, but this is just my way. Is I either make my own compost, which last year I did not make enough to fill all my beds. I made enough for one bed. So I'm going to work on that this year. So I bought a bunch of local organic compost and manure, and I raked that into the first 2 to 3 inches of topsoil in all of my garden beds. And this is important because every year that you grow things, the soil, it gives those nutrients to the plants, which is great, but it can deplete them. So every year in the spring, the first thing I like to do is amend my soil or strengthen my soil. Now, I am lucky because I have a ton of earthworms that are naturally in my soil. However, if you don't have earthworms, you can purchase these and buy the big fat ones, get them in your soil, and they'll help till the soil and turn it and keep it aerated and fluffy, which is something that helps the plant roots get established and grow deeper and wider. So the soil quality is so important for having healthy and happy plants, and get your hands in there. So I'll usually do, maybe this much compost. I'll sprinkle manure on top of that, and then I'll use my hand rake and I'll spin, I'll just get it all sifted and twisted and mixed up. And then I'll go in and I'll plant whatever I'm planting that year. The other thing you want to be mindful of when you're assessing your land is how much sun, because most of our herbs and vegetables need full sun or mostly sun. They can do well with some shade, but most of your medicinal herbs and the ones I'm going to mention do require sun or partial sun. Partial sun means partial shade. So in my garden, I get about half of the day sun, half of the day shade. They all seem to do really, really well. They like that blend of sun and shade. One thing that I think is really important when you're setting the stage for a successful growing season is becoming really clear about how much time and energy you can give to the garden. If you're going to be traveling, set it up with someone in your neighborhood, a community, a teenager, someone who can come and water your plants while you're gone. And also at the same time, it's important to take on the role of steward, not manager. That is stressful. It is stressful to try to manage people and things. And in all of my recovery work, you're only the boss of yourself, and it's the same for a garden. If you try to control and manage a garden, you're going to get exhausted by it. So instead, the best thing you can do is think about being a steward and a companion and a friend of the plants. And so you are there to support them. Some of them are going to die, and that's okay. Some of them are going to go nuts and create, havoc, and you're going to have to, trim them back a little bit and help them stay in their own lane. And if you do this from a spirit of cooperation and joy and friendship, it becomes a much better experience than trying to manipulate and manage and control. So that's just a little tip that I have learned over the years. All right. What are the 7 herbs I'm going to recommend you get into the soil ASAP? Here they are in no specific order, just 7 herbs that came to me. The first one is bee balm. I think everyone, if you can grow bee balm or Monarda fistulosa on your land, it grows native in the Midwest, and it can be grown on the East Coast and on the West Coast. It might not do so well in super arid, dry environments, but it can be grown in most places. I love bee balm because it's a great plant for attracting pollinators. And it is the equivalent of oregano. It's a wild oregano, basically, here in North America. And it is great for colds and flus and sinus infections and lung stuff like bronchitis. It also can be used to fill sachet and pillows to help with sweet dreams. And there's tons and tons of uses. You can go to my herbal playlist for my Herb of the Month series, and most of these are included in there. So if you want to deep dive into any of these herbs, check out my Herb of the Month playlist. Those are the basic medicinal uses for bee balm. I will say it is in the mint family, so it will spread out through lateral roots give it space to spread, it will spread and it will pop up, a few feet down your bed or wherever you plant it. So don't plant it somewhere where you need it to stay contained. It does not like to be contained. Give it room, it will spread, and it will create this beautiful abundance of flowers and leaves and stems that you can harvest for medicine making. The second herb is chamomile. I cannot live without chamomile in my garden. And chamomile is in the Asteraceae family. It's one of my favorite nervines to use for sleep, for nervousness, for excitability. Great for kids. It's a really nice one too to make an eye compress if you have a sty or conjunctivitis. It's a really wonderful herb for reducing inflammation on the skin. It can be helpful for upset tummies in both children and adults. We use only the flowers medicinally. And actually, I have some from my garden last year. So this is my chamomile from 2024. Isn't it beautiful? So the nice thing about growing your own herbs is that they stay vibrant for a full year. So my goal is to use this up in the next month so that I can make way for the blossoms that are soon to come. I do have bee balm too if you want to see it. This is the Monarda. Let's see if it can get into focus. There we go. So these are my Monarda. This one is Didyma. This is the red flower. So you can see that it's got a reddish flower to it. And I use the leaves and the flowers as a medicine. And both the Didyma and Monarda fistulosa, they're both really similar. I do find that the Didyma is a little bit spicier, but you can use them for the same things. So number 2 is chamomile. Lovely herb, beautiful, safe for children and dogs. I use it with my dog when she gets a little anxious and she'll just eat the flowers raw. The third herb is thyme, and I don't have thyme because I used it all up in my cooking. So I keep a jar of it on my stove or near my stove, and I just ran out of it last week. So I put some new thyme in the garden. Thyme doesn't spread that much. It usually stays in a clump and it will trail. It kind of is like a vine. So the vine will trail off, but the roots don't. Here in Minnesota, it dies off every winter because it's so cold. If you live in California or someplace where it's more temperate climate, you may not have, it may just it might stay green year round like it does in the Mediterranean and Greece and Italy where it's native. Thyme is a wonderful antimicrobial herb. Anytime I start to see an infection setting in with my kids or with myself in the sinuses or lungs, I go to my thyme, do a thyme steam in a water bath, or drink it as a tea or tincture it and use it internally. Such a wonderful antimicrobial. My fourth herb is calendula. Look at this beauty. It is this beautiful, it's sometimes called marigold, but it's not the same as the tagetes, which is the Mexican marigold. This is Calendula officinalis. So you do want to look at the Latin name. And has a bright orange flower. It's kind of oily and resinous, and this is a wonderful herb for skin care. I made an infused oil last year. Look at the color of this. Oh, it's so pretty. So this has calendula and marshmallow and shatavari, but the color of this oil came directly from these flowers. And it grows pretty tall. They will self-seed, or you can gather the seeds after the flower goes to seed and then plant those in the spring. I haven't found that they come back in really harsh winters here in Minnesota, but a few years ago when we had a mild winter, it self-seeded and then came back the next year. But this year, I had nothing. I had to replant the seeds and get some fresh plants from a local herb grower. And I love calendula flower. So they work really great in an infused oil, in a salve. You can use it as a tea internally for colds and mucus that lingers, and also as a lymphatic. So it really helps move the lymph and help the body with detoxification. It's a really great herb for places where the sun don't shine. So rashes in the armpits, between the legs, diaper rash, things like that, where there is damp and moistness kind of sitting there. You can use it topically and internally to clear that pattern. The fifth herb is nettles, and let me just show you. Now, nettles has volunteered itself into my garden beds. I did not plant it there, but now it's there. So I harvested all of these nettles from my garden bed, and then I tried to pull up all the roots to say thank you, but no thank you, because they take over. I would not ever plant nettles in a garden bed. Plant it, in a gully, plant it on the edge of your lawn. It really likes low-lying areas that are wet. So that's where it came from, was down in the wetlands of our property. So it just migrated its way on up like it likes to do and spread. But this is a wonderful nutritive herb. This is like the vitamin and mineral supplement. Instead of taking pills and swallowing pills, just make yourself an overnight infusion of nettles and you'll get all the vitamins and minerals that your body needs, including you'll get some protein from the leaves themselves. And again, there's a whole video. I spent an hour talking just about the medicinal qualities of nettles, but this is one I would definitely make sure you have on your land. And it is pretty happy to grow most places where there's some water. The sixth herb is lemon balm. Oh, it's so pretty. This is my lemon balm from last year. It is prolific. It's another mint family plant, so it will take over. Be where my nettle balm, or my nettle balm, my lemon balm that I planted last year in my garden bed has self-seeded, and there are little tiny lemon balms all over. I actually had to till up about half of them because I didn't want the entire bed to be lemon balm. I want to plant some other things as well. So it will take over. Be aware of that. It really likes to grow. It is probably one of my favorite pollinating herbs, as well as a wonderful herb for social gatherings. And this herb, in the talk that I did on it, I talked about how it's really nice for bringing people together because it reduces anxiety, but it lifts the spirit. So it's the best quintessential having people over for a family holiday, a cookout. Make some iced lemon balm tea, and it will make all the people that get overly excited calm, and all the people that are a little like anxious come into their own strength. So I love that. I love that as a connecting, socializing herb. So that's lemon balm. And then my seventh herb is peppermint. Here is my peppermint. Peppermint is a mint. It will take over as well. So I only grow peppermint in containers. I do not put this in my garden beds because I did that once and I was finding peppermint everywhere. Like it grew out of the raised beds. It was on the ground, through the gravel, and just snaking its way through my garden. And I just said, you know what, buddy, I love you, but not, you got to stay in one spot. So when I moved here to Minnesota, I decided only in my pots. And I actually plant them out front. So that way, when I'm coming and going throughout the day and my kids are coming and going, we can just nibble on the leaves. And it's really good for settling the stomach. I wouldn't say it's like a stimulant, but it's sort of a brain stimulant. So it helps with focus and memory. And it's a breath freshener. So that's another reason why I like to grow it on the front. So when I'm heading out for a meeting or teaching or school pickup, I can just pop a leaf in my mouth and I know that all the garlic nettles that I ate, my breath isn't going to smell like a scary, stinky person's. I use this a lot blended with chamomile for my kids. So those are the 7 herbs that I think you should get out and plant if you can. And if you're not a green thumb, don't worry about growing them from seed. Find a local plant nursery. Try to find one, obviously, that has organic growing conditions. And if not, you know what? It's fine. Just stick them in the ground. Don't put pesticides on them. They don't need pesticides and they'll do just fine. And they will grow into wonderful medicines. And the quality of the medicine that they will produce, I think, is strengthened by the quality of attention you give them. And the time you spend with them, even just sitting with them in the garden, they will give back to you in their medicine. So I hope you enjoyed this first class of our new series on spirit to soil. And I would love to hear how you connect to your land, the plants that are your must-haves in your garden, and any other tips that you could share with our herbal community for growing and and sustaining a wonderful connection to the land and the plants that you live with. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.